This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, Torah Prophecies and Trump's victory. The miracle of the overturned election of 2020. With us this evening, Rabbi Isser Weisberg. Rabbi Weisberg, what an honor and a privilege to have you on the Glazov Gang.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Rabbi Weisberg, I've been so fascinated with your videos, and the last few ones, you're really narrowing in on the prophecies of the Torah, especially the book of Daniel. And in your opinion, you're saying lately you're 99% sure or something like that, but you believe that Trump will prevail at the moment, and you're confident that he will enter a second term. And you believe this again because of the Torah. Could you tell us your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, sure. First of all, when I say 99% is only because, I'm just a person, so I could be making a mistake. God doesn't speak to me. I don't get revelations and things like that. I just study prophecies. And I'm confident because I've been studying them for 20 years. And it seems like everything, that I predicted based on my understanding of prophecies came to fruition. So that gives me the confidence. Like you go to a doctor who has experience for 30 years and you ask him, like, what do I have? He says, I'm sure you have this illness and this is what you have to do. So you don't ask him, what do you mean? How do you sure? Well, you're not a prophet. Did God tell you? He says, of course not, but I have experience. And I've seen these symptoms so many times, I could assure you that now sometimes they're wrong. So, people told me, friends like they said, how could you say you're 100% sure? No one's 100% sure. You're not God. You're not a prophet. So I just want to clarify, I'm very confident that I'm interpreting the prophecies correctly just because I've been doing this so long and everything fits in. So, but obviously I could be making a mistake, just like anybody can make a mistake.
Absolutely. Now, but why are you fairly confident that Trump will get in again for the second term? And how do you connect this to the Torah?
Well, there are many detailed prophecies about how the redemption unfolds. And if you read the books of the prophets, not only Daniel, but specifically the book of Ezekiel and the book of Zechariah, they talk about conflicts that happen right before the Messiah appears. And the conflicts really are an expression of, it's like a final battle between good and evil. And according to the Kabbalah, the metaphysical aspect of Torah study, the forces of evil were created. There's no such thing in Judaism. We don't believe that there's anything outside of God. So there is no independent being called Satan that's fighting God. But God did allow forces of darkness to prevail in the world in order that man should have free choice. Because if everything would be crystal clear, if there wouldn't be confusion, and there wouldn't be people and movements and forces that try to confuse people, that people have to make moral choices, then their choice would have very little value. So therefore, there has to be confusion. So God creates, for example, Adam and Eve in the garden. And if they're created by God, so they're kind of perfect people. And then if they're perfect people and God speaks to them, then they have no choice. They have to be good people because there's nothing wrong with them. They were brought up, they were basically kind of programmed to be good because God created them. Mm-hmm. So God puts the serpent in the garden and gives him a task to confuse these people because I want them to see, I want them to make a choice so their life would be meaningful. Mm-hmm. I didn't create robots, I created people, and I want them to have free choice, and I want them to choose on their own, to choose a path of morality and goodness and connection with God. So therefore, these forces of evil are essentially really an agent of God in order that there has to be confusion in the world. Mm-hmm. So we know the story in Genesis, the serpent was very successful, and God gave them just one commandment. In Judaism, we have a lot of commandments, 613 commandments, and then there's so many things regulating our lives, but they only had one. And God said, you could enjoy, there's a beautiful garden, there's delicious fruit and everything you could enjoy. Just stay away from this tree. And that was a command from God. And then the serpent comes and confuses them and said, no, God doesn't want you to eat from this tree because he's selfish. And he knows if you eat from this tree, then life is going to be so much better. And he wants to deprive you. So that was an insane accusation, that a loving God who created the whole world and a beautiful universe and a beautiful garden, and he created you, Adam and Eve, to enjoy this, that actually he's a selfish God that only wants you to suffer. So it was insane, but he succeeded because he was very slick. Like the primordial serpent looked like a regular human being. That didn't look like a serpent. Only after God punished the serpent, so then he became, the serpent that we see today. But initially, he looked like a fine human being, and he spoke to Eve just like a friend would speak to her, and he confused her, and she failed the test. So that was the beginning of a long journey. Now, mankind, this is a battle that's going on throughout the generations until the Messiah comes, because if mankind doesn't prove on themselves that they could choose, make the right choices, then the Messiah coming and bringing in a utopian world would be meaningless, because the people, it would be like the same, like God, like it would be a gift that you don't deserve. Any good parent, even if you have a lot of money, you want your children to be educated, you want them to work hard, you want them to have a profession, you want them to feel successful, you want them to feel that they're leading a meaningful life. You don't just want to throw money at them. That would be very cruel for a parent to do, because the child will have everything in their life but have absolutely no sense of accomplishment, no sense of meaning, no sense of purpose, and they won't grow up to be upstanding, successful human beings just because they have a lot of money. So in order for us to get into the next stage, mankind had to prove themselves that they are worthy. But all along the way, there's these forces of darkness that are there to confuse us. So they don't have an independent being. So there are no evil forces. I mean, sometimes when I speak, people misunderstand me. I'm just saying, the primordial serpent and the forces of evil, but it's all part of the plan. So the prophets say that before the end of time, there's not going to be any need for these forces, but they make one final stand in order to before they're eradicated, and there is no, the last test sort of is the most difficult, and it's very confusing, and the forces of darkness are very, very powerful and very confusing and very deceptive. So the prophets talk about all this, and there are specific agents that are actually identified in the prophecies. For example, one country which in the wars of Armageddon, that Christians call it Armageddon, Jews call it the wars of Gog and Magog, but they're the same thing. And it talks about that there's a great superpower, and that's going to converge upon the land of Israel and try to take away Jerusalem away from the Jews. And it's going to come with a whole alliance of different countries. The names of those countries we can't identify. There's a bunch of them there in Ezekiel chapter 38. The only one that retained the same name for 2,500 years from the time those prophecies were written by Ezekiel is Persia. The Hebrew word for Persia is Paras, and that's the name. Actually, Iran was called Persia until 1935 when they changed it to Iran, because Persia is actually not a Persian name. So they changed the name to Iran, but it's Persia. So that's the only country that we could identify clearly that's part of this effort to take away the land of Israel, and particularly Jerusalem, away from the Jews. So these prophecies, it's amazing that we know, for example, I mean, there are people that question the authenticity of the Bible. They say it's not the word of God. Now, so I'm not going there, but everybody knows that the books of the Bible were at least 2,000 years old, because when we discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls in the late 1940s, and they all have been carbon dated, they're at least 2,000 years old. So nobody made this up 100 years ago. So these prophecies are 2,000 years old, and we're saying that there's going to be a superpower that's, together with Iran, is going to be involved in a confrontation, or in an effort to deny the Jews the right to Jerusalem and the Holy Land. So that's kind of amazing, because we see that the superpower of the world is the United States of America. And this already happened, that under the Obama administration, right before Obama left, when he was a lame duck in the end of 2016, in December 2016, it was actually right as a Hanukkah gift to the Jewish people. He stabbed, the Jewish state in the back or in the front by encouraging and facilitating that the UN should pass a resolution that the biblical Jerusalem and the Temple Mount really belongs to the Palestinians, and the Jews have no right to be there. So this was passed by the UN, and the United States encouraged it, and that's the first time that the United States did not veto one of these crazy resolutions against the state of Israel, and he told the United States abstained, which allowed it to go through. So this was kind of, when you read the prophecies, it sounds like there's going to be a great war, and there's going to be a lot of huge armies and armed to the teeth and all that stuff. But the prophets speak in metaphors, and in our times, wars are not fought that way. Wars are fought on a political level, and they're fought with words, and they're fought through the UN, and they're fought with. This is the way we're in a war right now. I mean, it's obvious there's a war between the right and the left.
Dr. Weisberg, so the prophecies of Gog and Magog, those enemies of Israel, in many respects, that's the spirit of Obama and what he did right before Hanukkah in 2016. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, when the prophet says that there's going to be a king from a land of Magog, and he's going to, with his armies and with his allies, he's going to attack the state of Israel, that prophecy was fulfilled in a very interesting way, because nobody thought it would be that way. When everyone, for the last 2,000 years, people are reading this prophecy and they're envisioning this great war. But prophets talk in metaphors, and the way this played itself out was not an actual war, but an effort. It was as damaging as a war, because that really was enormously damaging to Israel when the United States says that, Jerusalem doesn't belong to you.
So what you're saying, of course, implies that Obama is very much in the camp of darkness and evil. But then look, Trump comes in, and as you say in your videos, he's done more than any president to help the Jewish people, to help Israel. And you believe, and also in accordance with the prophecies, that Iran needs to still be disarmed. And you believe that Trump still has his biblical obligations to do that, correct?
Correct. So there's another aspect of the prophecies, is that Daniel speaks about four kingdoms, and he talks about their demise. So the last kingdom is the kingdom of Edom, which is identified with Rome, but Rome actually became the Christian empire, because Rome, we know in the 4th century they became Christian. And basically, the Christians now are identified with the Roman Empire. And the prophet Daniel says that all the other empires, the Babylonian Empire, the Greek Empire, and the Persian Empire, they will all be destroyed. And before the Messiah comes, the only empire which will be left will be the Christian Empire. But the Christian Empire will have been transformed to a friend of the Jews. Actually, in this week's Torah portion, the Jews, we divide the 5 books of Moses into 50 parts, and every week we read a part. So in the part that we're reading this week, it actually talks about when Jacob met his brother Esau, who is the father of the spiritual father of the Roman and Christian empires. So it says that Esau was very upset with him because he stole the blessings, like we read in the Bible. But they made up and they hugged as brothers. And the prophets talk about that at the end of time, that the forces of Esau will be divided in half. Half of them will embrace Jacob or the Jewish people, but half of them will still be on the wrong side. So this is pretty amazing, because America is basically is divided right in the middle. You have half of America which supports Trump, which also supports a lot of the fundamental principles on which the United States was founded, which is basically that the rights of every individual is based on the fact that they were created by God and in the image of God. That is really the foundation of the United States of America. The left wants to eradicate all that. There's no God. There's no morality. Do whatever you want, whatever gives you pleasure, whatever makes you happy. There's no obligation. You don't have to bring up a family. You don't have to get married. You don't have to have children. You don't have to teach them to be, to fear God and to lead moral, upstanding lives. So this is all, it's pretty incredible that it's really unfolding before our eyes.
Help me and Annie and so many of our viewers sleep better tonight with a big smile on our face. Please quickly tell us why Trump is going to most likely enter a second term.
Because the prophecies don't talk about like Obama coming back. In other words, there is this war against Jerusalem, and then God comes and protects the Jews and saves them. So now, if Biden would come back, Biden is basically Biden, Obama. They're all on the same team. Obama can't have a third term, so he's doing it through Biden and the left. They're all on the same team. So it doesn't really make a difference. In the prophecies, there's no place for a second coming of Obama. He already did his damage, and now Trump came and saved us. He was a messenger of God. And the prophets say that God is going to send, in a miraculous way, he's going to overturn the negative influence of I'm saying Obama. It doesn't say Obama in the Bible. It talks about, the negative forces of Esav. But the bottom line is this: there's no prophecy. There's no room for a second. We were there already. We're on to the next stage, where Obama's on the good side, and now he has to continue the work of God, which is basically bringing.
No. Wait, you mean Trump is on the good side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Trump.
Yeah, not Obama. Okay.
No.
Okay, Obama, Biden, Team Satan, Trump, Team God.
Correct. So there's no place for a second coming of Obama Biden anymore. It's finished.
Okay.
We were there already, and now we're moving on to the next stage, which is the positive stage. And the thing that has to be accomplished now is Iran, which is now represents, they're the voice of radical Islam. And then there are obviously the good Muslims, the ones that are making peace with Israel, the ones that are embracing Israel. So there's a lot of great Muslims out there. But Iran represents the radical, the evil aspect of Islam. And the next job for Trump is to crush them. And he hasn't done that yet, because whatever he did till now is just, it didn't get the job done.
You said something so fascinating in a recent video, the numeric number of 437 in connection to Trump.
Well, it's interesting is because at the end, in the book of Genesis, it says that the last leader of Edom, which again is the Roman Empire, and the heirs of the Roman Empire that are the Christians, and now the United States is a superpower representing the Christians of the world. So it says that their last leader is an individual by the name of, in Hebrew it's called Arom. Arom, and it says Arom means in Hebrew piles. And the sages teach us why is he called piles is because he's going to bring piles of treasures to the Messiah to help the Messiah build the temple, because the Romans destroyed the temple. They were the one who destroyed in the year 69 or 70. They destroyed the second temple, and it says when they will come back and become good, to make up for what they did in destroying the second temple, they're going to help the Jews build the third temple and actually assist with funding and know-how and technology, whatever it takes to build the third temple. And this last leader of Edom, Arom, has the same numeric value as Donald J. Trump. So that's pretty fascinating.
That is very fascinating. Rabbi Weisberg, let's leave on this note. I'm Christian. Now, we believe Jesus is the Messiah. You also believe in a Messiah, just somebody different than Jesus. But I think that we believe something very similar in this regard, that even when it becomes very dark and the forces of darkness and evil seem at a huge height, yes, we weep out of compassion for the suffering of people, and it's a sad moment. But overall, we should be also celebrating because redemption and salvation is very close, correct?
Correct. Okay, so again, Judaism, of course, does not really celebrate the suffering or the death of our enemies. We pray that they are transformed and become our friends. We don't want anybody, even radical, vicious, dangerous, bloodthirsty Arabs. We don't pray that we pray to God every single day 3 times. We don't ask God to kill them, destroy them, eradicate them. We say, please transform them. Let them see the truth. So we never celebrate the death even of our enemies. But right now, we're celebrating, there's an enormous transformation in the world, because it used to be, everybody was against the Jews. If you're Christian, you know the Christian history, for centuries, they were very, very hostile to the Jewish people. And today the Christians are the greatest supporters and lovers of the Jews in Israel. Many of them are incredible. So right now we've witnessed this transformation, and of course it's a celebration. And now that we see Muslims embracing Israel, that's amazing. We love that, and we'd like to see everybody on the same page.
Wow, and Trump is really making that happen. Rabbi Weisberg, what an honor and a privilege and a pleasure it is to have you on the Glazov Gang. I hope you'll come back and we'll continue this discussion.
Sure.
For those of our viewers who are fascinated and want to watch your videos, where do they go?
You just go on YouTube and search Rabbi Isser Z. Weisberg, and you'll find them all.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Rabbi Weisberg.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining the Glazov Gang this evening, and we'll see you soon. Good night.